Yo, 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 what is going on, RoK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are going to be touching on assessing yourself, your strength, and where you match up, or I guess fall, on the food chain for the start of a kingdom and possibly throughout Zone 1 and beyond. Before we get started, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell, and if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment description below. Okay, so as we said for today's topic, we're going to be touching on you starting out pretty much in a new kingdom and how to decide whether or not, one, you are going to stay in that Zone 1 province. If so, do you adjust and move after placing CF? Do you adjust flag pathing? Do you potentially say, no, I'm going to move to a different province? Why would you do that? Or do you potentially consider just re-rolling and trying it out in another kingdom when we're talking really, well, I guess we'll speak to this from a few different ways. We'll speak to this from the player, and then we'll speak to this more so from the alliance. And or, I guess, group, maybe as well. So the first thing we have to be able to identify is how is a Zone 1 province developing? And from there, what are the key indicators that we need to look out for whether or not you and or your group will continue in that Zone 1? So the first thing I like to look at is, one, who's getting their center fortresses down first? That is always going to be a big indicator outside of being able to hit your castle late pretty quick, so that way you can see who's on the boards. This gives you an early first indication for, one, who has their CFs down first, who is also climbing up the boards, and is one of the alliances climbing up the boards one that already has their center fortress down in your province. That's an indicator, and then you compare your positioning, your alliance versus theirs. You would then start to look at, okay, well, how many alliances have their CFs down maybe within the first couple days, and then where do those alliances rank on the boards? From there, you are going, got 8.5 hours of sleep last night too. From there, you are going to then compare yourself not only against the first alliance, but any, if not multiple alliances that get their CFs down, and where they're ranking and coming in power versus where your alliance and or group is in power. Because that will give you an indication then, well, how many strong alliances are here in this Zone 1 province? Where do I fall on the kind of the power food chain? And then you'll start to look at the next thing, or the next factor, which is going to be, where is your positioning? An example of this is, let's say you have 4 or 5 alliances that are within the top 10, just in this more extreme example, and they happen to be in this zone, and more specifically, they happen to all be on kind of this northwestern third of the Zone 1 province. Well, this is kind of a very hard thing to work from, because you either have to have the one that's the farthest to the center starting to branch out and go wide, this one branching out for room, and then maybe this one taking this left third or left upper quarter, whatever it may be. But you have to then consider, well, this is going to be rough, because unless you're able to break out to be kind of the top dog there where you can kind of dictate pace, you most likely may end up in a situation where you're fighting over territory, most likely first, and then that could escalate into just kind of a little mini skirmish or even war within that province, at least between some of the alliances. So this is why positioning is very important. Now, remember, there's no way of knowing where someone, for the most part, is going to place their CF. Right? If they have vision on it, they're going to go ahead and place it, most likely the moment they're able to. This is why it's important to get your CF down early, but also, if you haven't, if someone already has a CF down, you may not want to necessarily try building a CF in that same area. You may want to build a CF in a different area that's a little bit more spaced out. That's something that's really important to do. And then number 3 here is going to be, and this is kind of a pro tip I'll give. If you have an area uncovered and you're doing a lot of fogging and you're able to at least at minimum defog your Zone 1 province within the first day, you can go and look around the map and see where people are clumping up together. This is a nice little secret kind of way, I don't know if I say secret, but I just think a really good tip where you can kind of get an early indication on where CFs may go down around, because if you see early clumping or early hiving from players, they may be doing that with the intention of placing a CF right there, if not closely around where they are, so they can have the fastest build time or construction time possible. So that's a nice little kind of a flag, if you will, that you can utilize. And then I would say the fourth thing comes down to whether or not you are in a position to stay in the province or you need to make an early call to leave the province. Now, this is important because in order to make that type of call, you have to have vision on the other provinces, or at least on your adjacent province. In this case, if you're here, you need to have vision on this one, and you probably need to have vision on this one above you, right? Because your adjacent province are most likely the ones you're going to end up defogging first before you get to the opposite side. So in this case, then you may need to decide, well, man, there's a lot of CFs that are going down here. I'm looking at the other adjacent provinces, and they don't have too many CFs that are going down. Let's just go ahead and place our CF over here in one of these provinces, right? And then you can just move over there accordingly. Otherwise, what you may have to do is wait until you get more fog uncovered, right? If you're not able to go to one of the adjacent provinces, or if they have a lot of CFs down, then you might need to keep looking before you consider placing yours. Another option is you place yours in a more indiscriminate kind of open area where you can at least do a little bit of building and giving you an opportunity to basically save up to then build your next fort. So that's an option as well. Then from here, once you are starting to get early indicators on am I going to stay in this Zone 1 province or not, that's when you need to be able to inform your members of, okay, well, hey, these are our options right now, kind of communicating those efforts, so that way you have a higher chance of having a higher retention percentage for players that are going to carry over with you whatever you guys decide, more so really if you're going to end up moving. But these are some of the ways that you can go about. Now, probably the fifth or sixth tip I'll give you here is, and I don't want to say this often happens, but it can happen. If you communicate with other alliances early and you ask them, hey, there's a couple of us here that are big, would you guys mind us splitting the province or taking part of it? These are those types of conversations you can have diplomatically to try and work on something that can be an agreeable territory distribution, so that way you're not in a situation where it's basically just going to come to a head and you're going to have to fight, right? Where pretty much just kind of, for the most part, comes down to how many veterans you have and then however many new players that can be taught and retain the information in a quick way to where they can then actually contribute as well. And more often than not, those are the situations you don't want to be in. But these are some of the things that, one, how you can figure this information out, what you can do with the information, and then how you can act upon it. Because nobody really wants to be in a position, pretty much anyone, where they're having to contemplate or consider, do I leave? Do I re-roll? Do I play this out even if we have to fight? Those are hard positions to be in, especially early on. And so sometimes making the most out of what you can within your situation is really important, not only for yourself if you're a lead or if you're a member of management, but also for your players. Now, if you're an individual player and you're going in, you may not really have any expectations, or maybe you do, but for the most part, it doesn't really affect you, because as an individual, you have a lot more flexibility in being able to kind of go where you want, right, as long as you don't have some kind of wild, crazy, poor, bad reputation already in the kingdom, right, the first weekend. Then if you're a group, and let's say you're going in with multiple alliances, you actually have more flexibility, because especially if you're spreading out between provinces, you have opportunities to kind of move between them more so than a single alliance would, because that means you would actually have a partner or someone that can help if you guys are trying to double up on an area or carve out a section for that. So it just gives you a lot more opportunities than if you're going in as a single alliance. However, this is what I recommend doing, because how Zone 1 plays out and what you're able to build from in the beginning when it comes to developing territory And I kind of I kind of view it as every alliance has kind of like a one free pass or a one free kind of redo before it becomes too impactful early on. And the earlier you identify and assess this information, the better off you're going to be. That is pretty much it for me. So again, I would love to know what you guys felt and thought about this video. Have you ran into a situation before where you've had to move, whether it's within the province, another province, where you re-rolled for another kingdom because it just wasn't working out? I would love to hear why you chose to do what you did and what was happening that required for you to make such a decision, right? So let me know anything and everything in the comments below. That's it for me. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.